All right, welcome, and please stand as Legion Post 225 and 40 and 8 post the colors.
Stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Forward, march. Come left, march.
Thank you very much to Legion Post 225 and 40 and 8, and I want to turn it over to Chaplain Ron Miller for a moment.
Detail, mark time, march. You can all be seated. Colors, halt. Order, arms. Fall out. One of the reasons that we brought the bugler today, this is Jerry Peltier, and the song that he did on that bugle is called Retreat. Now that, if you were at an Army base, like I was Army for 30 years, but not on base for all that many years, but anyway, the point is if you're on an Army base, close of the end of the workday, like around 5 o'clock, that song would go, and that would tell you that, they're putting the flag down, you need to stop. If you're driving, you'd stop, you'd get out of your car, and you'd wait. And then the next song that they would do is called To the Colors, and that's when they'd be bringing the flag down. So one of the reasons that we did that is the next thing we did here was bring the flags out. But the retreat, it occurred to me, not occurred to me, but I thought of doing the bugle in the sense of Cam Headland. All right, this is the end of his duty day. Many duty days that he's had, and we are here. One of the reasons is to celebrate the end of his duty day. Thank you, Cam.
Hello, My name is Mira Norcross. I am the chair of the LILA School Board, and it is my great honor to welcome you all here today to our beautiful new Headwaters facilities. I'm also happy to tell you that I think this is the first official event where I do not have to tell you to pick up your chair and put it away. We're here to celebrate our beautiful new spaces, and they really do need to be celebrated because I hope you went on one of the student-led tours, but they're absolutely amazing. But what I want to focus on is the people behind and within the walls that we've created, because that is and always has been what LILA is about. When you came here tonight, you were greeted at the door by a LILA student. And if you went on a tour, you went on it with a LILA student. And if you signed, or if one of your younger children colored on something, they were guided by LILA students. And we had our wonderful LILA students all over the building welcoming you. And I want to really shout out to them and thank them. Thank the student government for organizing volunteers and the National Honor Society. They even went door to door with our neighbor homes and gave them invitations. How's that for a LILA welcome? There are so many thank yous, and I get to run through a lot of them, but I'm not going to get through all of them. We have a couple more people who will thank more people. So honestly, it takes so many people to create what is not only going on tonight, but what has gone on for 15 years here at LILA. I'd like to thank all the teachers of both lower and upper school for all that they do all of the time. You know, the upper school teachers, we finish the space, and they, on top of their normal curriculum and teaching and everything else, had to move their entire classroom, which sometimes meant tubas or cellos or art supplies. They had to move everything almost overnight, and if you went on the tour, you saw that they made this place feel like home just immediately. So thank you to all the teachers for all that you've done to make this already feel comfortable. For this night in particular, I have a list of, I hope everyone tried the food. Wasn't it amazing? We have Third Gear Restaurant that catered. We have Minnesota Fine Art Photo that's documenting our evening. All Season Rental, the Balloon Shop, Haney Rental that gave us our equipment, Rabine Transit, Team Vantage, and the Washington County Transit Center that provided the shuttle service for people so we'd have enough room for parking. And then there's the people that pulled all of those things together, which is the Grand Opening Planning Committee. Huge thank you to that group of people. They worked so hard to get everything as it is here tonight. And also, of course, our tech people, because we have tech. Thank you, Scott. And to our facilities people, Steve, Kevin, I'm going to say this right, Bolivar and Placido, who literally were here washing windows, polishing floors, doing everything so that our building would sparkle tonight. Because unbelievably, we've only had class for a couple of weeks, but already it really needed it. So, and all the printing companies and whatnot that we used in Forest Lake to make the banners, Forest Lake Printing, UPS Printing, Reach Communication, Rapid Press Printing. Okay, I'm gonna take a breath. So that's all the things that made tonight happen on a two-night basis. But there are a lot of people that have been planning for a long time to get us here today. And I would like to thank the school board of LILA, not only this year's school board, but all the school boards of the past. And I know some of you are here tonight, and I so appreciate that you are here looking at this building, that the thoughts that started 15 years ago are coming to fruition. And we are in this building that people dreamed about 15 years ago. And it was all those dreams every year and all the work. I don't know if you know about the school board, but it is made up of teachers, parents, and community volunteers who give countless hours every month of the year to help shape our vision and set our goals and achieve our goals. And I truly appreciate all of your work for all of you. So thank you. With that, a huge focus of the school board has been the facilities, which we're happily sitting in. But in addition to that, a huge part of what the school board does is it also works with the executive director to set our strategic planning, our vision, and work towards it. And for the last 16 years, we have worked with Cam Headland as executive director. We've been so blessed to have him at our helm for the last 16 years. And if you know Cam at all, you know he is a gentle, kind person. What you may not know about him is he's absolutely brilliant. He has this ability to dream and get a vision and then be practical and think of the steps one at a time of how to get you there. And I just want to personally say that I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to work with him. I consider him a mentor and a friend, and I always value his thoughts and perspective. So make sure you take the time to shake his hand tonight. He's done a lot for us. And in the spirit of him retiring, I also have the wonderful pleasure of announcing that our new executive director will be Shannon Peterson. Many of you know Shannon. I can't imagine anyone doesn't know Shannon because she's been here since the very beginning and before with the founding board who came up with this idea of an immersion school in Forest Lake and make it an IB while we're at it. And I just want to say, Shannon, thank you for having a dream, and making it come true for all of us so that all of us can have a dream for our kids and be a part of it. And she is absolutely the right person and the only person to lead us into our next steps and our next chapter as a school, which is going to be exciting. As a school board, now we get to pivot. We have got the facilities. Now we get to take a step back, which we're doing now over the next couple months, and do strategic planning for what comes next. Where do we go as a school? How do we build the right support structures for this wonderful facility, the wonderful teachers, and the amazing students that we have within our walls? So with that, I just want to say thank you all, also to all you parents who have entrusted your kids to us over the years, and for showing up time and again when we need help, and for everything from hanging banners on the walls to pasting things in the back of the classrooms when you didn't understand what the teacher was saying at the front of the classroom. When LILA began 15 years ago, it was small, and we knew everyone. If you've been in lower school, the area that's right outside the third grade classrooms now, where it's just shoes and backpacks and coats, that was our main gathering area. There was no curbside. You walked in and waited for your kids at the end of the day. And that room that you sat in, which is that little area just outside classrooms now, had been the library in the morning. They would roll books in, and then they'd roll them back out, and then they'd roll tables in, and it was the lunchroom. And then they'd roll the tables back out, and then they would clear the area away totally, and the kids would have gym in there in the afternoon. So we have come a long way. and it's been a very fun journey, and I'm very excited to see where we go from here. So when you leave the auditorium tonight, I challenge you to be a risk taker like we ask our students to be every day, and talk to someone you don't know. Nobody is here by accident. This is not the school that kids just go to because they were born in that in a family that lived in that neighborhood. Everyone chooses to be here. And I love hearing people's LILA stories. And so I challenge you to walk up to someone you don't know, shake their hand, and ask them what their LILA story is and what brought them here, because I promise you it will be interesting. So with that, I am going to turn this over to someone else who needs a huge thank you tonight, Kathy Bystrom, who is LILA's development director. She has been in charge of the fundraising effort and community development that has put the equipment in the facilities that we have built. When we built these walls, we weren't sure if we were going to be able to put seats in right away and put bleachers in, and Kathy has been amazing at bringing all of that together for us. And she is out in the community spreading the word about the wonderful things we do here too. So thank you, Kathy, and I'll turn it over to you.
Oh boy, thank you so much, Mira. It's great to be sharing our thank you list tonight, because it certainly is a long one. I'd also like to echo your shout out to our grand opening planning team. Thanks to all of you for saying yes. It's been a wonderful opportunity to get to know you all better. You are the best. Today marks the formal end of the Be Bold campaign and my 137th day as a part of Team LILA. When Shannon first approached me about the prospect of joining the staff here, I'd say well over a year ago, maybe even closer to 2, I wasn't quite ready to make a career shift, but we vowed to keep in touch. Our initial conversations were brief and casual, lacking detail around what my role might be. I knew this opportunity likely had wonderful potential, but I needed to be in the right place in life to make a change. Anyone who knows me well knows I don't make decisions quickly. I need information and data and time to process. Nonetheless, I felt this constant tug on my heartstrings, you could say. I couldn't get the prospect of joining LILA out of my mind. So I ultimately reached out to Shannon with the goal of gathering specifics. What precisely will my role be? I asked. Well, she said, and I'm paraphrasing a bit, we need to do a better job of telling our story and educating our community, especially to mitigate the misinformation around charter schools. We're doing great work here, as many of them are, and we shouldn't be lumped together. We need growth opportunities for our teachers, both new and experienced, in the form of better pay. We have passionate, dedicated teachers, and we need to keep them. They deserve to be compensated equitably. So my curiosity was piqued. I am a lover of public policy, so I'm listening intently. But she said, the first thing I need you to do is run our capital campaign. We have beautiful new spaces, but lack the additional resources needed to make them top-notch learning environments for our students. Okay, what's your goal? I asked. Ever the visionary, she replied, $1 million. What followed was either an audible gasp or stunned silence. I can't quite remember which. Many, many conversations later with Shannon, my very supportive husband, and board chair Mira Norcross, that tug on my heart won out, and I said yes to LILA, and let's go to Shannon. The incredible capital campaign team, Jesse, Jen, Tracy, Julie, and Shannon, was already in place, and they had done a solid job laying the foundation, working with ADCO, our design partner, to create what is known as Be Bold. I jumped into a well-developed marketing campaign that simply needed strategy and dedicated support. We hit the ground running, and here we are, ready to share our progress, but more importantly, to thank all of you. There is so much that I have learned in these last 5 months, but 2 things really stand out for me. This is an incredible community. Something very special that I find hard to articulate at times. Some call it warmth or spirit or culture. Whatever you want to call it, it's something that is truly lived out. Lived out in the warm welcome I received, reflected in the weekly emails between staff that flood my inbox with words of support and kindness and affirmation and love for each other and children and families. Or in the smiles and gracious greeting of Chinese New Year event parents, grandparents, and children, many who walked blocks in the freezing cold to attend. They could have just as easily walked through those doors grumpy with the parking challenges, but they did not. Or in the together we can make this happen attitude of my colleagues, so clearly evident as we were preparing for tonight. They have truly been my village these last few weeks. These are just a few of my many experiences, but this is not the exception, this is the norm. The second thing I learned is that LILA staff, students, and families show up. You so generously give your time, talents, and treasures. the Rotary Plunge, PTO Fun Run, Giving Tuesday, the Theater Showcase, and of course the multitude of generous gifts that we've received during the Be Bold effort. Targeted gifts that will support music department and media center needs, or enable us to create cool outdoor learning environments, or ensure our talented students have a state-of-the-art performing arts center. The more general, use it where you have the greatest need gifts that will support physical education, art and science departments, and more. The in-kind gifts of new and gently used furniture that allow us to redirect other resources to our students. The list goes on. Experiencing the generosity of LILA families and friends of all ages and backgrounds, witnessing the joy as our community experiences the impact of that generosity, you just keep showing up. What a privilege it has been to support this effort and all of you. So, now it's time to see where we've landed. And I think we may need a drum roll. Oh, we can do better than that, right? Okay. We are this close. $10,371 short of our $1 million goal. This does not discourage me. This astounds me. And we still have time to push this over the top. And with matching dollars still available, we only need to raise another $5,200 to meet that $1 million goal. Here's one way we can do it. We're going to be running a paver special. These pavers are going to be going outside of our lower school and our upper school. $125, lots of ways to promote, celebrate, remember, and recognize, especially our graduates, for example. Through March 20th, feel free to come and see us at the Be Bold table for more information if you're interested. In closing, thank you for welcoming me into this amazing community. More importantly, thank you for believing in and so very generously supporting the mission and vision of LILA. This is your legacy. Now it gives me the great pleasure to introduce our fearless leader and LILA's new executive director, Shannon Peterson.
Sorry. There we go. I have a lot of visual aids. Thank you, Kathy. That was very kind, and we could not be happier to welcome you to the LILA family. Welcome, everyone, to the grand opening of the LILA Upper School Edition. Welcome to those of you who are sitting here in the elegant Lee Performing Arts Center with a state-of-the-art sound system, a plethora of fancy lights, and a projector that is about the size of my car. In these surroundings, as lush as they feel, I've been asked to take a few minutes to celebrate our grassroots beginning. The idea of a language immersion was first pitched to the Forest Lake District Schools in 2001. That is the beginning of a long and boring story that I am not going to retell right now. But to sum it up, after trying for 3 years and gathering dozens of families, we realized that for this community to have language immersion, it would have to begin in a charter school. So, 13 of us, formed a founding board and started down the rocky road to charter authorization. If you are one of those 13 founding board members, please stand at this time. I know you're out there. Do it. Okay. All right. Thank you. For several of us, this work became our unofficial, unpaid, full-time jobs. We saw bilingualism and soon the many facets of the International Baccalaureate as the best possible education for our then preschool children, and we were ready to make it happen. Our first hurdle was to get an approved sponsor. We were refused or ignored by more than 50 sponsors before being granted a charter on May 23, 2003. This gave us about a year to find more students, teachers, a location, a curriculum, furniture, and everything else that a quality school needs. We held parent information sessions and gatherings, and we handed out flyers at soccer and swimming lessons and arts in the park, and to our families and friends and neighbors. Soon, we found a location, the old bowling alley. And then, before we knew it, we had attracted too many students to fit in the bowling alley. So we turned our sights to the hospital. As important to LILA's success as anything else we did was to reconnect with Cam Headland. We had first met Cam when we were all part of the District 831 Immersion Task Force a couple years earlier. So when I say reconnect with Cam, I mean we mildly stalked Cam. One of our board members, who sadly is not here, I so wished I could name her here. She's not here, but she saw him in the Wendy's drive-thru and she pulled in behind him, blocking him in. She then got out of her car, knocked on his window, and invited him to a board meeting later that evening. Within a year, he had agreed to become LILA's director. Why did he choose to attend that meeting? I've asked him, and he doesn't remember the incident at all. But for whatever reason, he showed up. He had already been a successful and admired principal at Lino Lakes Elementary, and he could have coasted into retirement there. But instead, he chose LILA, and he never looked back. And we have been so grateful for his decision. We didn't know at the time, but Cam's ability to recruit his friend and colleague, Pat Steichen, as LILA's first school secretary doubled his value to the school. So, to continue the history lesson. So to continue the history lesson, in September 2004, LILA opened with 177 students, 7 teachers. Parents had pitched in August to help clean the bathrooms, scrape old gum off the used furniture, paint the newly renovated smallest wing of the District Memorial Hospital building. The rest of the building housed the State Patrol, the Fairview Employee Assistance Program, and a residential teen chemical dependency program. We received our certificate of occupancy, allowing us to be in the building on the morning of the first day of school. Imagine what risk takers our first year's parents were. And the risk paid off. Everything worked out. And even that first year, all of the students did indeed learn while becoming bilingual and biliterate. We've had many more milestones since then, including taking over the entire hospital building in 2005, adding a new wing and the Cam Headland Gymnasium in 2006. Shortly after that, We were awarded a $500,000 renovation grant and were able to turn the old hospital operating rooms, not known for their light, into a colorful library filled with natural light. The next milestone was adding Chinese to our immersion offerings, spurred on by a $750,000 federal grant to do so. Another major step was to add this, the Headwaters Campus, in 2015, originally planned to house only grades 4, 5, and 6. Almost immediately after starting construction, the school board voted to add grades 7 through 12 to ensure that LILA students had options both in language immersion continuation and in the International Baccalaureate through secondary school. And here we are in 2020 at another LILA milestone as we enter a new phase with facilities that can make so many more dreams come true. A couple of days ago, after school, I was walking through the Commons, and as I climbed the stairs, I noticed the high school basketball team gathering below, wearing their letter jackets, getting ready to board the bus for a game. And I walked into the college and career readiness area in the loft of the library just in time to see a newspaper club meeting wrapping up. And I looked over the balcony and I noticed students were studying down there when Ms. Sophie was finishing up her day's work. It felt unreal. Could we really have a fully functioning middle and high school in a space where just over 5 years ago, Cam and I and the property owner were literally stuck in the mud of a cornfield while considering its suitability for a school? The answer is yes, we could. Fortunately, others agreed that this cornfield would make a beautiful location for a school, and I'd like to recognize a few of them right now. Thank you to the Forest Lake City Council members for approvals and city staff for checking out our plans from head to toe to ensure we did everything correctly. Thank you to Dick Ward of Doherty and Company for helping us secure financing for the 3rd time. Thank you to Dennis of Dennis Batty and Associates Architects for designing such a great space, and especially for making sure we got this Performing Arts Center as part of it. Thank you to Egan for the lighting and the electric and lots of things under the stage and in the walls. To Reach Communications for their extra efforts to get the sound and the lights ready for tonight's celebration. To McGough Construction, especially Tom, Lauren, Alex, Joe, and Todd, for being ahead of schedule, on budget, and absolutely fun to work with, as well as for sponsoring tonight's event, and for donating a gorgeous cupola with a dragon weather vane that graces the top of the Kinder Center on 11th Avenue. So check that out when you drive by next time. Next, this is not going to be her favorite photo, but I'd like everyone to show their appreciation for LILA's CFO. Julie Lundgren, for her absolutely masterful oversight of building projects and budgets, for her eye for detail, and her unwavering commitment to creating the best schools possible for our students. Recognition and gratitude also go to Cam Headland, to the LILA Board of Directors for their vision and courage in taking on another set of building projects at this site, at the Kinder Center, and still to come, the main campus entry. So let's have a few more people stand here. Julie, Cam, and those serving on the current LILA School Board, please stand now to be recognized. Thank you. All right. All right. Please remain standing while those who have served on all past LILA boards stand to join you. There we go. Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot of people. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, sit down. While you're sitting, look at the people next to you And know that without each one of them, all of the students, staff, parents, grandparents, and friends, this school would not be what it is today. LILA truly is a community effort. I was going to ask you to give each other a high five, but I'm going to skip over that part. Before I introduce our next speaker, please allow me 25 more seconds to mention a few people I should have thanked in the original LILA opening in 2004. I would like to thank my parents, Tom and Sharon Pogreba, for letting us move in with them when we moved back to Minnesota in 1999. When people call me and say, yeah, I'm thinking about starting a charter school, I say, okay, quit your job and move in with your parents. Anyway, they let us move in with them in 1999. They also demonstrated to me what it means to pursue a dream. And I also want to thank them for watching the grandkids whenever I had a meeting for school. I would also like to thank my husband, Mark, for not even hinting that I should go get a paying job during all those startup years. Thank you. And now it is my pleasure to introduce someone I knew first as a wrestling coach and physical education teacher, then as a member of the United States Army Reserve, next as a state representative, and tonight as someone who once started a high school soccer program with LILA's retiring executive director, Cam Hedlund. Please welcome Representative Bob Detmer.
Well, thank you, Shannon. And when I saw in the paper that this event was going to happen, right away from the Capitol, I called the school here. I said, I need some information. And that information was on Mr. Cam Hedlund. And I got to know Cam back. I came to Forest Lake in 1973, start teaching at the high school. Cam came here in 1974. You're just a young guy, Cam. So Cam, what you've done here in this community with this school is just incredible. Those are some of my personal comments. And Shannon, you're going to just carry on the legacy that we have here in Forest Lake with LILA. But now, Cam, I'm going to do this military style. Front and center, Cam. The center's over there. Look at that. Oh, my word. I need to get a good new picture. I didn't have any gray hairs until I joined the political scene. So, anyway, this is a House resolution, the Minnesota State Legislature, commending Cam Hedlund for his many years of service and dedication service to the teaching profession. Whereas a member of the teaching profession must be a caring and committed person who believes in the ability of all students to learn. And whereas Cam Hedlund is the executive director at Lakes International Language Arts Academy, LILA, and is retiring after 40 years in the K-12 education. And whereas Mr. Hedlund led the growth of LILA from 177 students to 1,400 students, from 9 staff members to 150 staff members, and from 7 classrooms to 70 in just 15 years. Whereas Mr. Hedlund is known as, we heard this before, a risk taker in chief after opening LILA in September 2004, only minutes after the final building inspection was completed, occupancy granted. Whereas throughout his teaching career, Mr. Hedlund championed the growth and development of young teachers into leaders, of volunteers into foundational supporters, of young kindergarten students into bilingual caring contributors. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration of the House of Representatives of the State of Minnesota that it commends Cam Hedlund for his many years of dedication and commitment. Dated February 14th, the ink is just dried now, 2020. Melissa Hortman, Speaker of the Minnesota House of Representatives, and Ryan Winkler, the Chair of Rules and Legislative Administration, and yours truly, Bob Dittmer, State Representative, and I approve this message. So.
Cam. Give him okay, just one more minute.
You have something to say?
Yeah.
All right.
But you can stay front and center. Yeah, you're great. It's good there. Cam and I have known each other for almost 20 years and worked together at LILA for about 16 of those, so I have a lot of things to say about Cam, but I've trimmed it down to 5. First, he knows what's important and he lives his values. He told me one time that when he was 17, he was never going to get angry again. He decided that. And he wasn't going to waste any time or energy being angry. And knowing him for this many years, I think he probably has succeeded in that. Perhaps it goes hand in hand with not being angry, but number 2, he's a very kind person. While most of the parents and staff, most of the parents and staff in our school were attracted here because of language immersion and think of International Baccalaureate as a nice bonus, Cam came to think of the IB as at least as important as the languages, and he has embodied these learner profiles, particularly the principled, risk-taking, and caring. Number 3, Cam is an excellent storyteller, and he has more near-death experiences than anyone I know. Number 4, Cam doesn't sit still. He leads by example. He doesn't ask anyone to do a job that he wouldn't do himself. Therefore, in a twist of irony, we are going to dedicate a bench to Cam in his honor, on which the LILA community will rest their behinds on his behalf. The gift of the bench is real, and so is Cam. He has always pitched in, offered support, advice, and guidance to anyone in need. He has been a better mentor to me over the past 15 years than I could ever have imagined. Welcome to the microphone, Cam Hedlund.
Well, thank you, Shannon, and thank you, Bob. I really am touched. I've been blessed to be a part of this. You're talking about me, but really it's the school you're talking about, and it doesn't happen because of one person. And the staff and the students and the parents, as Kathy mentioned, truly are tremendous. I am Cam Hedlund, and on the way in tonight, somebody asked me if I really was retiring, because I've kind of retired 2 or 3 times before, and I'm actually not completely retired yet, in that I have a few duties here. They let me kind of choose what I wanted to do, and they let me choose my title, but I can't remember it. It's something. I was going to look on my card to see what it said, and then I did remember that they never gave me one. But it has something to do with facilities and making sure that these projects got finished, and to continue to support the international ambassadors, teachers, and related activities with that. I just am blown away with these buildings that we've created. and with the team that put this together. I think Kathy said or Shannon, one of them, that they came in on budget. They actually came in under budget so that we could add more space and more pieces. And this is on top of weather conditions and moving earth in the spring because of the frost and all kinds of extra expenses. A $500,000 drainage system under the annex that we were hoping to avoid. It's just truly incredible, and I really want Dennis Batty to stand up, our architect, and for Joe and Alex and Tom and Lauren to stand up too. These are the 5 people that we have met with weekly. For a very long time. There was a long time where we weren't sure this was going to happen, but we persevered, as we have many times before. We've been close to not being open more than once. So they asked me to share a few thoughts, and as I thought about what I wanted to share, I too thought I would just share a few of the things that stick out the most for me in the early years, the memories that are still as vivid today as they were 15 years ago. And they all have meaning, and I've learned a lot through them, but you'll have to figure out what the meanings are. Before I do that, I do want to mention Forest Lake. I worked in Forest Lake for over 30 years. I worked in a couple other districts too, but 30 years in Forest Lake, and it really was a good experience. Working and playing soccer with Bob, I coached tennis for a while. I had several different jobs there. They gave me opportunities that were incredible growing and learning experiences. But I want to mention one person, Donnelly Johnson, who was for a while my direct supervisor. He was my supervisor the whole time, but I reported to him while I was the first coordinator and then first principal of the Area Learning Center, which is an alternative school for grades 6th through 12th grade. And he was so encouraging, and 2, he never said no to anything I asked for. And out of that came such respect that I never asked for anything that wasn't absolutely necessary, so it kind of worked both ways. But I just learned so much about leadership from him and watched him help so many that were in real trouble. So to work with people like Bob and Donnelly and others helped prepare me to work here, and just wanted to share that. So a few pre-LILA opening memories. The first one is being in statutory operating debt before we opened. And is Chuck Spiker here by any chance? He is the MDE kind of watchdog for charter schools, or was back then. And he really relished in rubbing it in that we were in statutory operating debt, and invited me to the new directors conference for the next 2 or 3 years to be sure everybody knew what not to do when you're opening a charter school. We came to love him and really appreciate the support and the guidance that he offered us. The second thing, pre-memory, is our first PTO had to borrow $137,000 to remodel the old doctor's clinic at that end of the hospital. Fairview said, we'll rent you the space, but we're not spending 2 cents to do anything to it. Later we found out they didn't really believe we would finish the year and weren't going to invest any extra money into us. So the PTO borrowed $137,000, because remember we were in statutory operating debt and we couldn't borrow it ourselves. And we created the space that Mira explained extremely well so that I don't have to, at the east end of the building. But the next time you're there at the main campus, walk down that hallway, and it was a little bit wider, but it really wasn't much more than a hallway, and look up and you will see wood beams or phony beams that are made to look like beams because we were trying to save pennies and we didn't remove the walls between the spaces in the clinic rooms. We just sheared them off and capped them at the ceiling, and they're there to this day. They look pretty good, actually. And the third one, she also mentioned, or somebody mentioned, the operating room, and that there wasn't any natural light. But boy, they had big lights so that they could see well during their operations. And that's where two of our first classrooms were, in the operating rooms, and we didn't change them a bit. We had the big lights, we had the, curtain rods, we had the oxygen coming out of the wall. One had a big air chase right in the middle, and they painted a tree on it, and it looked pretty good, and they painted a window on the wall. We really did know how to cut pennies. So moving on from that, we also, in the early years, took a retreat every summer with the staff, and it did two things. It helped create morale, build relationships, and we were growing so fast that we had anywhere from 8 to 15 new teachers every year that we had to bring in and get them up to speed rather quickly. And so just a couple of fun memories from a couple of those. I think it was our first retreat, but second year, we were at Idahoppy at the camp, YMCA camp, and we were playing a game, and we were pretty small back then. We were still only 10, 12 teachers, 15 teachers maybe, of something close to capture the keg, but in a room about half the size of a classroom. So it's very confined. And capture the flag, if you can imagine yourself as a kid playing it in a small area rather than a big field. And we all learned that day that Janet Dieter, who was the sweetest, calmest, most laid-back teacher we had, really had a competitive edge. And had the skills to go with it. People just kind of stood back and said, whoa, as they watched her maneuver around that room. And I'll remember it to this day, I remember it as if it was yesterday. Then we moved to Dunroven, which is a retreat center on the St. Croix for the next few years. And this one has particular meaning for me in that we were doing some Olympic kind of things for team building, and we had all these teams. And one of the activities was canoeing relay style across the St. Croix River. And I grew up with canoes. I did a lot of time in the Boundary Water River canoeing. I actually worked at a camp in the middle of Lake of the Woods at a canoe-based camp. So I considered myself pretty good at canoeing. And most of the time I checked my competitiveness pretty closely to not be too overwhelming at any one thing, but this was my thing, And so most of the other boats were going this way and that way and, every which way, and I can at least make the boat go straight, or the canoe. So I'm pretty pumped and excited, but we're the second half of the relay team, and our first half of our team is kind of going like this or that, but they're still in this race, and so I figured, we've got a really good shot. This is going to be, fun and easy. And so they pull up, and the drop-off at the St. Croix River was pretty steep. So the boat had to be, I keep saying boat, canoe had to be right in close to shore so the next crew could step into it. And I was in the stern, and I believe Jocelyn, of those of you that know Jocelyn, was in the front. And we had Tanya, which was, she was a big person, and she had never been in a boat, period, let alone a canoe. And so I was in the boat, and Jocelyn was in the boat, and people were trying to help us hold, and I had my paddle dug in the sand, because I'm going to keep this thing, nice and steady for her, so she's confident. And she steps in and just kind of keeps going over the other edge as we all go with her. And we're fully clothed. We're not in swimsuits. And so we're dragging, soaking wet, and we don't bother to completely empty the canoe. We just kind of turn it a little bit and push them out because we're in a hurry to get back out there. Everybody lines up again. I know what she did, so I'm now going to do something different to counter that and get her back in the boat. And she steps in, but she doesn't go forward this time now because she knew that wasn't good. she goes back the other way. And there's just no stopping her. We're in. By this time, the first time everybody giggled a little, and the whole staff's down there. The second time, they're just having a fun time. And Tanya herself is a very gregarious person. She's just beside herself in laughter. So fortunately, she's not, mad or crying. I'm still not laughing personally. I still think we got a shot at this thing. And I don't remember if it was the third time or the fourth time that we went in the river again. I think Aaron Arredondo's got some pictures of it. I finally just, caved into it and started laughing with everybody else and learned you really can't take yourself too serious ever. But those were a couple of the memories. And because we're trying to get me out of here, I'm sure, quickly, just want to give you a couple of things that I've been involved in for the last couple of weeks that really touched me. One of my duties is the facilities. The other one is working with the international teachers and ambassadors. And I was with Rebecca Fong and the 8 Chinese ambassadors in St. Cloud. They sponsor us through the Confucius Institute, and they were in some meetings, and we had to be there. And we're at a fancy dinner, and this was the first week of the coronavirus, and so they were very nervous about will they be able to go home even in May, and just a lot of talk about it. And Kathy Johnson, who is the director of the Confucius Institute, was kind of wondering, she always has some sharing at the end of these dinners and those kinds of things, if she should, just address that straight up or what she should do. And together we chose to just ask them how their year's going and try to downplay it a little bit. And there were 2 or 3 other schools there too, so there were some other comments, but every single one of our Chinese ambassadors talked about their host family and how wonderful they were and how comfortable they were. One of the young ambassadors went on at great length at how shy she was, how afraid she was to come to the U.S., but she was pushing herself forward, and how wonderful her family had been to her. And so I just want to thank the host families. It's a big commitment. But we're not only changing our students' lives, we are changing the world as those people go back and educate someplace else. They're all going back to be teachers. And it just really does make a difference. Our outreach, we won't begin to know who we're affecting for many years, I don't think. The other one is a Spanish ambassador who lost her passport. And so they asked me if I would help her get her new passport. And she's from Latin America, and there's no consulate here. It's in Chicago, it's the closest one. But that consulate sends a couple of people once or twice a year to Minneapolis to handle some of those deals. And it was going on just a weekend ago. And so they asked me if I would go with her. And it was at 6:30, and I thought that was pretty early in the morning, so I said I'd better ask if that's morning or night. And it was night, on Friday night. But we went, and I've been around the block with this kind of stuff for a while now, so I said, "Now, have you got pictures for your passport?" And no, they told me I don't need it. They'll just use the electronic one they have. They don't need anything else. And we get there, and this place is packed. It closes at 7:30, and they tell her, yep, she needs 2 pictures, she needs a money order, and she needed something else. I don't know, 3 different things. And she's just beside herself, trying to make sure she's got a passport and what she's doing. And people that know me know, 1, I like a challenge, and 2, I really do enjoy helping people. I mean, it makes me feel good. And so I said, we can do this. Walgreens will have passport pictures and something else and blah, blah, blah. And so we headed out to find these pieces, ended up with all 3, and came back at 7:25 so that she could be done. And she had gotten the wrong number for the money order. So they wouldn't accept it, but they did accept everything else. I told her I would go back the next day, get the money order, and go do it so she didn't have to come back because she's way up here someplace. Anyway, her gratitude was she just was in tears trying to get this thing completed. And my point again is that we just are a family. We have connections. am so blessed to be a part of you.
Oh boy, what an evening. We're just about getting ready to wrap things up. I want to give Shannon and Cam and Mira a chance to get out the door before I release the rest of you. We've got a wonderful kind of final celebration planned for out in the Commons area. We're going to hear a few words from Forest Lake Mayor Mara Bain. You're going to learn to sing the fight song, and you're going to sing it, right? And then we have the formal ribbon cutting with the Forest Lake Area Chamber of Commerce, and some delicious cupcakes to send you on your way with. You are also welcome, if you didn't get a chance, to take a tour. Our students will be continuing those tours until about 8:30. And I just want to let you know, if any of you are on buses, the last shuttle leaves at 8:45. So with that, let's head out into the Commons area for the final segment of our evening.